Welcome, everyone, to another exciting adventure on Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and thank you all who are joining us this morning for a special episode at a special time. And today's guest is someone I had the honor and privilege of meeting actually at a conference in Florida, the 2025 Full Disclosure Now conference. And I have to say, you guys are in for a true treat. She is a wonderful source of light and energy. So I cannot even begin to do her background justice. So I'm going to hand it off to her to introduce herself and share what she does. So I give you the one, the only TikTok extraordinaire, Marvel Bliss.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you again, Michael, as always. So my name is Marvel Bliss. My real name's Stephanie, but most in the community know me as Marvel Bliss. So essentially what I do is I'm a soul midwife. So I'm a birth doula, death doula, striving to be a sex alchemist right now. And what I do is I am very good at kind of illuminating pathways for people for spiritual evolution and transformation. So what I do is basically I mix comparative mythology, theology, religion, astrology, astrophysics, you name it. I have very wide, in-depth knowledge base that I kind of pull from and universally kind of tie everything together so people can see a pathway of enlightenment, I guess you could say, or evolution. But it's I'm very much about alchemical soul transformation and just getting into the highest unlimited blueprint that we can get into in our embodiment here on Earth. And also I work that up to a celestial level as well into the stars. So it's pretty cool. I love it.
That's amazing. And I will be totally honest. I heard of and I know about death doulas, but I have never heard someone use the term birth doula.
Yeah, so it's essentially a midwife, but I'm not actually doing the doctor's job. I'm essentially just there as a supportive role for both mom and dad and making sure that their birthing plan goes as suit, because sometimes, when you're in a hospital facility, things can kind of go haywire. And so mom and dad don't stress out. I'm there as an advocate to make sure what they want actually is stuck with, because we all have heard horror stories about the birthing process. And I like to illuminate more so in getting parents back in the home for home birthing, as well as some helping with ancestral healing with the birthing process, especially for like Native Americans and African American descent, because there's a lot of ancestral woundings when it comes to these generations, and it's held on both cellular as well as now in the physical realm. In these hospitals, they get treated a certain way, and I'm here kind of to help guide and clear it and get people back in the homes for home birthing, so we don't have the medical industry complex doing damage to our children, because that process of birthing is very sacred. So I'm there as like a protector and a guide for the soul and for mom and dad.
No, that's beautiful, and I agree. There's something to be said for, being born at home in the comfort, because, it's interesting, when you ask people, what if you go to transition on, what's your ideal way? They'll say at home in a peaceful way. But we never ask anybody, what's your ideal way to come into this world? Do you want to be brought in through, this sterile environment? And so the first thing that everybody sees are these white walls and like machinery around. Or would you rather be brought in the comfort of your home and knowing this is where you're going to be?
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's the same for birth and death. Like most people want a comfortable and familiar environment, less sterile and less chaotic. You know, being tied up to a whole bunch of electronic equipment and being awoken off and on, and you know, getting medicines that maybe they don't want to be subjected to because it's the industrial complexes protocols, and some of which are actually more harmful than they are good. So yeah, it's just all shedding light on that system and helping people navigate and set up not only birthing plans but death plans as well. Because what I've also found is a lot of families tend to get split apart during the death process because they don't have a plan in place. And once you lose the glue of the family, you know, sometimes families fall apart, you know, siblings won't talk to each other anymore. It's actually something that I hopefully can help people to avoid altogether and keep the family unit alive during the process by go ahead and helping them with setting up plans for the estates and having all the documentation in order. That way everything runs smoothly and they just have to focus on being there with their family and helping them transition, you know?
And you bring up a really good point too, is, when my mom was in the hospital, and I remember when I was in the hospital, you're in there to recover, and the best way to recover is rest. And they deny you that rest because they come in every 4 minutes having to check this, having to check that. And the hospital says you have to, the doctor says you have to take this and take that. And it's like, even the nurses, if you ask them, off the record, will kind of be like, yeah, it's not the place to rest. And that, I'm like, I can't help wondering, when did that change? When did it go from this is the place to heal and get better to we're going to do the exact opposite and just hope for the best?
Yeah, well, it happened a while ago. And that could be a whole nother show. We could talk about how not only in the birthing process, but the death process, how it evolved into this, what it is now, and just see the timeline of events that happened that we are now in. Because, you know, we all are aware of what happened in the education system. Well, that kind of process also happened with our medical complexes too. So it's very interesting when you actually get into it and dissect that timeline of what actually happened, where these things are now put in place. And it kind of evolved from what you were saying into what it is now. So,
Right. And another thing I'm kind of curious about that you brought up is I'm familiar with alchemy and I'm familiar with metaphysical alchemy. So I have a feeling I know where you're going with this, but I'm not so sure. And so, future sex alchemy, what is and how is that, you know, the benefits of it?
So, again, this is all about transformational energies. So that's my specialty. So, on a soul level, when you birth, you're coming in and then you die. But consummation is another transformational energy. You know, when two souls come together and they decide to make a child, that is also an alchemical process. So, what I and my mission is to help a couple, you know, connect with their spirit baby, actually have these consummation rituals, or just, you know, just their beautiful experience together where they're bringing in the highest vibrational being for not only the planet but their bloodline, to heal their bloodline too. So and just, you know, there's also other aspects of my mission too, like I want to help people who are rape survivors and you know, satanic ritual abuse survivors. From speaking from my own testimony, like it was very hard for me to actually stay in body during sex. And when you do that, when you disassociate, you become open to entities and stuff like that. So I really want to help people understand the spiritual aspect of it. But it's all about the transformational process and actually holding source energy between the two couples as they're making love, so they can actually bring in the highest frequency child when they are um, you know, trying to create a baby. So
Yeah, that's true. And also, I think, you know, as we're talking about like the education system and the medical system, you know, gone awry, that system has also gone awry because they started teaching us, like, yeah, you know, just go sow your wild oats, they would say, and then get married and, you know, have your family. And it's like, no, it's that act is sacred, like you're saying, and it shouldn't just be, hey, I got drunk one night and bam, you know, did that act. Oh, well, okay. And then do it again, or be
mhm.
like, oh, you know, I'm not committing to one person, but, you know, I have someone every night. It's like
Right,
different. It's like, what are you doing? You know, it's like you're throwing your sacred essence away. And
right. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, like, I'm not apart from that either. Like, we grew up with this programming through television, through media, like, you know, and we're literally programmed to be like, okay, this is how this works, when really it doesn't. It's so much more deeper, more profound than that. And some of us don't get the exposure to that profoundness until later on in life. And then again, here comes Sex Alchemy to help kind of unravel those past experiences and get that out of the body, get it out of the cellular memory, and move it more into a divine state of being, you know, and understanding. So yeah, it's what's been done has is really, it's a lot to overcome, but just to see the progress over the last 15, 20 years, it is slowly starting to unravel, and people are getting more and more into that in knowing, you know. So,
Right. And I think what's important too is with bringing the sacredness of it back and people, I believe in the choice. If you want to wait till you're married, the marriage part to me is a piece of paper, really.
yeah.
It's when you decide, yes, this is who I want to be with for the rest of my life, it'll naturally, progress to that stage. But I think it's interesting that, people are now waiting again. And it used to be a stigma before, like we were saying when we were growing up, that if you waited, it's like, oh my god, you're still this, and it's like you would feel like you're embarrassed for waiting and like something's wrong with you. And I feel like if you were to look at those people now that didn't wait and go, so what regrets do you have in life? And they're like, I have a strong feeling a lot of them would say, I regret I didn't wait for the right
Mhm.
person.
Exactly.
And so, there's something to be said for that too, is, life, takes its natural course, but when you take over and steer it, you might not be so thrilled with the results.
Exactly. Exactly. And hindsight's 2020, like once you set a course and you're on it, it's that. But it's not concrete. Like we can always transform, we can always evolve and get out of those states that maybe we were programmed or misguided into. So yeah, it's all about learning and evolving past,
Right.
what.
Well, and one thing I'll notice too is like you see in movies sometimes where a guy will pursue a girl because he's been told she's easy. And
Mhm.
when she's like, no, that's not me anymore, it's like it flusters the person, and they're like, well, and everybody, and it gets to be an awkward situation to where I think that's the other thing people have to realize is, if you're living this lifestyle, people will talk about it and you're going to have a reputation. And so I'm not trying to say, some things that happen to you are your own fault, but
Mhm.
it's kind of partly is because of you have this stigma because of how you are. And so people pick up and react to it. And so I think that's the other thing. And, some events, do happen because of that stigma. And it is unfortunate and it is wrong. But it could be also avoided if that lifestyle wasn't in place, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it definitely makes sense to me. I see where you're coming from. Yeah. So it's again like it all goes back to that evolution. Like, yeah, people might assume things, but if you're evolved past that and you stand in that, it'll speak for itself eventually.
Right.
So,
I
um,
mean, a prime example of that too is, you go to a club or a bar and both parties are wearing like really tight clothes that really accentuates everything.
mhm,
And you ask somebody and their opinion of that, and they'll say, oh, they're, putting out that they're this and they're showing this off. So, they're wanting this. When
yeah,
it could be that's just the outfit they like to be in the club with, but the visual stigma relates something else. And I miss the world where we used to be in, to where if we'll take an example, a female walked around with a short mini skirt, people would be like, oh, nice legs, that's a nice outfit. and that's it. Now, because the outfits, have changed, now it's, oh, is she, one of those that works at night, or, different stigmas to it. And I think that's unfortunate, but again, it's you're portraying yourself in a certain image, and so you kind of have to take what that image could be seen as your choice. You chose that outfit. Nobody forced you to put that on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, outfits are a tricky thing. I'm like one of those people, like, I'm gonna be that 80-year-old grandma that's like wearing whatever the hell I want, Like I'll be in the crop top and the booty shorts, and with
Uh-uh.
the sequins, But it just goes back to other people's projecting onto you, right? Like they want to assume by the appearance that you're one way when really like you could be walking divinity that's looking like trash. It's like those hidden angels that are in homeless people. People judge homeless people all the time, and they're like, some of the homeless people I've met have been the most beautiful angels in disguise. So it all comes back to like unwiring these thought process that humanity has kind of been programmed into. Like when we look at something, is it really what we're looking at? Like that's the material plane, but are you looking past that material aspect of what you're looking at into the heart of the person and the soul of the person? Or are you just strictly like focused on like this sensation plane? You know what I mean? Like,
I
and
do,
just
actually.
bringing awareness back into that, I think is important, very important for us, because we only look at it from like a sensation kind of view and not like a heart kind of resonance with people.
Right. And one thing I think that even I find it in the spiritual community that annoys me a little bit is you're told you're either sacred masculine or you're sacred feminine.
Mm,
And in doing that, you're taking people back to their primordial state of, okay, if I'm the sacred masculine, this is my role. If I'm sacred feminine, this is my role. Where in reality, the roles are intermingled and intermixed, but you only achieve that when you're in balance of both. And when you're in balance of both, like that's where I try to be, as much as I can be. You start to like witness, people and going, I can see the way you're looking at that person. You are too heavily on one side of your scale, and there's nothing wrong with what that person's doing. And you don't see the stigmas and anything. It's like you're saying, you've kind of risen above and see them for who they are, but it also though has the detriment of when you react that way, then people start judging that you're this or you're that. And it's like, no, that's not me. I'm not that. But just because I'm in touch with, the feminine side a bit doesn't make me this or that. It's just, I choose to walk as much as I can in balance of both and try to understand both. And to be honest, I find it's, if you put me in a room full of women and a room full of guys, I venture to say I will come out understanding the women more than the guys. And it's only because, and I say this with all of my heart and honesty from experience, women will get into story and beat the story to death, where guys, we will say, yeah, this happened and move on. And it's like there is something to be said for both, but guys miss the context where I think women get lost in the context, is my experiences a lot of times. And that's where I think the rub in communication comes, is guys are like, okay, we get it, we're ready to move on, and women are like, no, we haven't covered it all. It's like, yeah, we did.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I think that's why, like, I always identified myself as like androgynous source seed. Like, yes, I am female, but just like you, I kind of code switch on, like, do I need my masculine right now to protect myself? Do I need to be more of my feminine? And like just trying to balance that, because I think we get so caught up in identity that like, and it being concrete, and it's not. Identity isn't concrete. Like, everything in the universe is constantly shifting, changing, evolving, like even the planets and like what it does to us astrology wise, it's influenced our personality. Like, we're not concrete. We are always transforming and evolving. That's what energy does. It doesn't disappear, it transforms, right?
Right.
So it's, and like you said, women, they have this beautiful way of just being maybe even over analytical about things, and they like to dissect and like get the whole story and the rundown and like the other person's side and their side, whereas men are probably like, this is what happened, it is what it is, let's move on. They're more like matter of fact. Like,
Yeah. Like I will
so,
notice, and I, I've gotten into a few arguments, and when I argue with the female versus a male, it's almost to me kind of like a comedy unfolding, because with a guy, I can go up and say, hey, now that we're level headed, I get your point. And I just, it felt like you didn't get my point. And they're like, yeah, I get it. And we're like, okay, we learned. We're done.
mhm, mhm.
When I argue with women, it's like, well, you were saying this and I didn't agree with that, and you weren't listening to my disagreement. Well, but you were making me feel like I wasn't important because you were doing that. I was like, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a whole nother argument. Where are you taking that? And it's like you're saying, it's like women argue on levels where guys argue the situation and learn the situation.
Right,
Women
right.
bring everything into the argument, and you're like, and I'll be like, going, wait a minute, that's not me. I had nothing to do with that. And they're like, well, but you made me feel this way. And it's like, how? How in the world? And I feel like that's, something that, I almost feel like if we had a guidebook, that would have to be like a chapter in itself, is be
Right,
prepared, because that's where I feel like a lot of couples end up in therapy, is because one is bringing everything to the forefront to process and get, work through, where the other is situational.
right. Women are very feelings. They're very emotion. They're bringing their feelings and their emotions to the forefront, I think. Like, very water, like what it is like they're bringing you all this, unpacking all these emotions, and they want you just to, I guess, maybe, or just speaking on mine, just like see like, hey, these emotions are happening, can you just like witness that this is happening and understand that this is happening, and where I'm coming from and feeling all this, and
See,
you
and
know.
to me, the confusion that confuses guys and where guys get lost is women will be the first to tell you, don't judge me based on things in your past. And then they
Mm,
turn around and judge you for things from their past. And it's like, hey, wait a second. This needs to be a two-way street, not a one-way road.
right, right. Yeah, that's another thing is those wounds, that trauma that gets in on a cell level in your body and even on a mental level, and just going in and kind of unprogramming it. And sometimes it just takes the right man to like sit there with them and actually like help them move like trust issues, boundary issues, just like sometimes it just takes the right energy to sit with another person and help them work through unprogramming those traumas and stuff like that. Like we all come with our own issues, right? Like
Right.
even me. So yeah, like I think it's about finding the right alchemical partner that's like a good pair for you, and somebody who's willing to work through things and point things out, but not like in a critical way, just like, hey, like we can help each other evolve into like a better state of being and understanding and like progress, and just
And
learning how to communicate and speak on it without it getting too much into the emotions or too much into the, let's move on kind of, let's just drop it. Like really having that fine balance is important.
right. And I think one of the tricks too is I've noticed and I sometimes get tripped up by is guys have always had the role of protectors and women have had the roles of protectors. So they butt heads because you actually have two alphas, vying to see, who is the alpha. But it's different because guys will always stand up and protect themselves.
Mhm.
And if somebody protects us, we're like, oh, thanks. I, didn't really need it, but okay, cool. I appreciate it. I appreciate you standing by me. That's how we see it. Women, I've noticed where I'm like, oh, you didn't go to, defend your friend. And I'm like, my friend didn't need defending. She was strong and capable to stand on her own. And some of the time you'll get yelled at, why didn't you step in to help me? And other times it's, well, you did step in, but you didn't need to step in. I could have handled it myself. And it's like we're like, wait a minute. You're at two, again, you're giving off two different messages at the same time, and it's hard to navigate that. And so we always say communication's key and trust is key. And it's like, it's funny how that's why I think guys came up with the phrase, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, because you could walk into a room and there is no right choice. You are stuck and you're like, okay, what's the one instance I can get through? And the argument will be the shortest.
Yes. I think it's a case by case situation for everyone when it's something like that
Yeah.
happens, personality wise, like what phase the moon's in, even. Like it just goes to show you, like, you just got to get to know a person and know their personality and just kind of like, you know, if you overstep some boundaries, just be like, hey, I'm sorry. I was just trying to do the right thing. I meant no harm, and it is what it is. And can we let bygones be bygones and just learn from this and grow from it? And I'll do better next time. But just remember this for next time when I
Yeah.
when I do or don't do something, you
Right.
know? Sorry, I'm crying laughing right now. It's kind of
It's okay. I got a watery eye too, so I'm right there with you. Now, in reading your bio and the topics that we picked for today, you do have one. It's like I keep looking at it and I'm like, I'm not even sure I'm going to ask what this is, because it's like one word has one meaning, the other word has another meaning, and that's the psychopomp. I have never heard of it, but I'm like, the word psycho, I'm like, yeah, I don't even want to, approach that drama opening scenario. And pomp, I'm like, that's like a celebration. I'm like, are we celebrating being nuts? What?
no, 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 no. Actually, if you look into it, it's actually somebody who can travel the spirit realm and help guide souls that may be stuck or stuck here in this physical plane between the veil. So basically, I help guide them to the other side, because there's a lot of souls that will get trapped here, either religious based or whatnot, because they think they're going to go to hell, and like they or there's like somebody here they feel like they gotta be around and they can't leave yet. So I'm basically here to kind of comfort them, be like, hey, like it's really not like that. Like, let me help you cross over, you know. Some of them get trapped in like these pocket realities. Like I live in a city that's like full of like civil war environment, and there'll be pockets of like slavery, there'll be pockets of civil war things, and I go in and just kind of clear and like help transmute and help people over so they're not replaying the same thing over and over again in this little pocket reality they're stuck in. So it's a psychopomp. A psychopomp is basically somebody who helps transition souls. They can talk to the dead, they can help them out and help them cross over. And I've been doing that since childhood. The first soul I ever crossed over was my grandmother, and I was trained by Elizabeth Barron, who's a renowned psychic medium, and she basically taught me how to do that. And I've been doing it since, and that's what got me into the whole death doula field, because not only can I help during the process, but I can help after process too. So, and I didn't realize that was even like a job until maybe 5, 6 years ago. And it's like, oh, you mean I can actually get paid to do what I've been doing my whole life? Like, okay, like I just did it because, like that's what I've always done. And it's kind of evolved into like a passion of mine
Yeah,
over the
and
years. So,
so it's
it's
nice to have a name for what I've done as well since I was a teenager, probably. And but I still, it's like in my mind, I'm like, I would never put on a resume psychopomp, because I'm like, I just don't think that, I'm like, there's got to be a better word out there, because I'm like, I don't want to be associated as a psycho, but I
yeah,
get it. And it's nice to finally know a term that if I say this is what I do, people understand. But it's like, yeah, it's not a term you want to go and say to a group of
yeah.
friends in the
That word
mainstream
and the
world.
death doula word gets like people are like, what? What's a death doula? It's like, well, and I have to explain, well, it's basically like hospice, except I help before, during, after. It's the same thing. Like people
Yeah,
they're kind of like anything taboo, people get really like caught up on. I've noticed they're just like, oh, like some people are not comfortable with like death at all. Like you'd be surprised how many people just like try to avoid it, like it's not even a thing.
oh,
Like
I
it
know.
scares them. And really, it's just another beautiful process, except, people, it is what it's a taboo,
Yeah.
birth, sex, death, all of that's taboo.
But
So,
to me, the one line that people will say, I think it's like the kindest thing they could say, even though it's kind of insulting. And the reason I say it's the kindest thing because it tells me I need to veer off right now and change the topic if to keep civility before this turns into a huge argument is when they go, "Oh, you're one of those." It's like my mind goes, "Oh, yeah. You're mainstream. I'm not. Change topics. Let's, we could stay friendly. Let's just drop it and, change topic." And it's like a flag for me going, "Yeah. Okay, this is what we have to do." To
yeah, yeah,
where and and I know they're meaning it as an insult of, "Oh, you're one of those people." Like, oh yeah, but it's actually a blessing because it's like, yeah, now I know where you are too.
yeah. It just gives you an opportunity to like broaden their horizons a little bit.
Yeah, and what I say to people with like my shows is, yes, I do challenging topics. Yes, I do kind of fringe topics sometimes, but I just want to plant the seed, and whether they allow it to grow or just stay as a seed is up to them. But my job is just to put it out there, and the people who see it, they'll do what they need to do with it. That's not on me.
Exactly.
And some people are like, "Well, but you're the one promoting." I'm like, "No, I'm not promoting it. I'm just sharing it." If I was promoting it, I would be like, okay, today's, episode, we're focusing this. And the next episode, we're focusing on this aspect. That would be promoting. I don't do that on my shows. There's a
Right.
little difference. And so I just, yeah. And I like how you say, time bender too, because I'll be like running a few minutes late and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, let's bend the timeline a little bit so I arrive on time. How about it, guys?" And I will, and I'll be on time. Or I feel like I've left 10 minutes late, and I'm like, "There's no way I can make up 10 minutes." And I'll call the people, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be late. I'm so sorry." And they're like, and I'll show up on time. And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"How did you get here on time?" I'm like, I guess I, bent the timeline is what I'm saying to myself, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so those parameters, I like that. Well, it's all about intention. Sometimes like we get pulled off the timeline for a reason. Like I can't tell you how many times like I'll need to get somewhere and my keys go missing, right? And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
and then later in line, good thing those keys went missing because there was a wreck that just happened. Like, sometimes we got to look at the hiccups, like divine intervention.
yeah,
That's how I look at it. And like, if there's like something on the timeline, the sun in alignment, it's going to work out itself out. But that's cool. You just set the intention out and everything works out the best how it's
yeah.
supposed to.
Well, another funny instance of it is like you're saying, losing the keys, because there was an accident. Is like I have 4 or 5 different ways that I go home, and it all depends on what I'm feeling in that moment. And one person came up to me and he's like, I don't think I could ever find your house from memory because you keep going different ways. I'm like, yeah, force a habit. And another person said to me one day, they go, "Are you worried about being followed? Because you always take different routes." And I'm like, you know, no, but now that you mention it, it's probably a good thing because if I ever have been, they're all probably sitting there going, "Where is he going now?" Well, never mind. He's not going home. And I'm like, "Yes, I am. You don't know it."
Exactly. I had to do that here recently too. You got to switch up routines, you know. If you're feeling like you need to, like I always say, follow your intuition, follow your gut instincts. Like if something's
Yeah.
telling you to do that, there's a good reason for it. So follow it.
And a rule of thumb for people, I mean, it sounds silly, but it actually is a really big, I judge, life saving deal is if you're ever in a situation where you're feeling followed and you are, your nerves are a little uneasy, drive yourself over to like by a police station. You don't have to go in
Mhm.
the parking lot, just drive by it. Because I guarantee you, anybody who is following you for a nefarious reason, they're going to get worried that the cops are there because they know, they probably have warrants or they probably have, on a watch list, and the cops would be like jumping at the chance of saying, "Oh my God, the person's right here. Let's go get them." And so they're going
Yes.
to back off and they're going to be like, "Nope, hey, I'm out. That's it." And I mean, it sounds silly, but there is something to be said that, doing something so simple carries a heavy energy to it because it's like, "Oh, we're at a police station. Not a good thing. Let's change and let's abandon."
Yeah, exactly. It's always best to be safe when you're in that kind of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom, when she had a GPS unit, it was so funny because we were driving back and we were using her unit and we said go home,
Mhm.
and we were like tired. It was at night, and we drive past the police station. It goes, "You are home," and I'm like, "No, we're not." And I was like, "What?" And we said to her, "Why did you do that?" And she goes, "Well, because if someone stole the GPS, they would, instead of robbing the house, they would end up on the
Oh,
police station's front door." And it's like, that's
very
actually
clever.
pretty, yeah.
Very clever.
So, that's another trick. If you want to, if you know your way around, yeah, set your device home as somewhere else. Not your enemy's house or your nemesis's house. You don't want to harm them, but someplace where, yeah, you're you're going to be safe and they're going to be deciding, yeah, we need to leave these people alone.
Yeah, yeah. That's very clever. I'm gonna have to use that. I never even thought about that, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I know you have a presentation, but there's something else that you talk about doing, or two things that I wonder if you can touch on too, and I
Sure.
don't know if it's in your presentation,
Yeah.
is celestial grid architecting and weaver of timelines.
Yeah. So I just try to make luminous pathways for people on a universal level through comparative mythology, astrology, theology, physics, astrophysics, kind of tying everything together so people can see all these storylines and how they're basically the same thing, just reinterpreted differently throughout the ages. And then also on a celestial level, like I unlock a lot of things through these stories and through just deep meditations on certain star systems. And I work with certain guides a lot. And on a celestial level, I get so many downloads and basically doing grid work to help because it's all a nesting template, which this is perfect because I'll lead right into our my presentation for the show, and just how, like, even on a small microcosmic level, from your cells all the way to your body, it's all connected to the cosmos on a bigger level. So these planets and these star systems, they're all influencing us in different ways, and just kind of helping people look and see these nesting patterns and how to work with them in um, their own work and mission. Because I know there's a lot of people out here that do grid work and do body healing, but just to see how it kind of stacks upon each other, like kind of like a Russian doll kind of situation, where you can unlock these layers, and how maybe one layer you may be overlooking can just shift and transform something beautifully and help bring healing to it. So that's essentially what I do with that.
No, that's amazing, and it's time for that, because we're living in a world where, I believe Mandela effects have taken a whole new level, because we're all merging timelines, and that's creating, like, we almost need like a time force that can sit there and go, okay, your timeline is now going forward here, your timeline's now going forward here, and eliminate, the people that are like, what do you mean the moon is up during the day? The moon is never up during the day. It's the nighttime star. And you're like, oh no, the moon is now up during the day. So you are now on this timeline. It's like, oh, and it'd be like nice to have, like the time force that'll sit there and go, okay, you come from a time where this is the reality. You are now, this is going to be your reality. And be like, this is where you're going forward now. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of being like, what is going on? It's, it's almost like the movie, or not movie, TV show Sliders, where they're
Mm-hmm.
always jumping to the same Earth, but they never know if it's the right Earth until a little nuance comes up, and they're like,
Exactly.
oh, we're driving now where you go on red and stop on green. What? That's not thing. I'm on the wrong Earth.
Yeah. It's that multiverse you get lost in, because it's all
Exactly.
happening at once. But it's like, some mornings I wake up, I'm like, where are we right now? What? Oh, we're here. Okay, I know we're,
Yeah.
it's kind of disorienting at times until you get that divine synchronicity, or like, those serendipities, or, just those little things. It's like, oh, okay, I got it. We're here.
And I have to say, my heart goes out to the couples that are in relationships where one party is viewed as evolving themselves and the other party is following the mainstream narrative and staying where they are, because the one that's evolving, I have a feeling a lot of fights come up because their timeline has altered so many times where the other person's hasn't, and they have to figure out where, how is this now going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult, especially if they're not even in that awareness yet, uh, and they're just being opened up to it. So
Yeah,
sometimes we help them catalyze those processes, which is nice. Or, as long as they know how to navigate it.
right. And I was talking last night with Anchor Haven. She's in the UK, and we were talking about, there's different facets of our realities now where people are adapting faster than we did. And it's like, well, they are, but they're not in reality, because they are adapting faster because they have us that are talking about it, helping them grasp it and able to accept it, move forward. Where when we were growing up, we didn't have that. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have friends that you could talk to about this. And
Right. That's so true.
so, yes, in a way, they are advancing faster, but it's also because they have access to us.
Yes.
Where, so they themselves aren't actually advancing faster. That's the illusion. They're still learning, like we're still learning. It just seems like they get it faster because of where they're at.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. The internet and podcasts and all that have really helped the evolution of the community to not only grow but just help it evolve faster. That's definitely what I've seen over the past 15-20 years, because
Yeah.
15-20 years ago, you were lucky if you had somebody in the same room with you that thought like you on a lot of these topics. And then now it's like it's more prevalent, and if it's not local, there's definitely a chat group or a group online that has it where you can like mingle and interact with these people. So it's very nice. It's refreshing. It's great to
Yeah.
see and know that people aren't alone in that, and have guidance and have help through, because I know through my awakening, although I was always awakened, but obviously, you think you're awake and then there's another layer of awakening and another layer. But it's like, it's great to have those people that you can like just kind of be next to and be like, hey, I'm going through this right now. And it's like, oh, yeah, I've been there before. Just, you got this. Keep
Yeah.
going, and
Exactly.
here's some resources, if you need them. Yeah, it's
Right. And so, actually, there is a question in the chat room that comes from Tasmania.
okay.
She says 2 a.m. here in Tasmania. QQQ for Miss Marvel. Have you been able to do what you do from birth? Did you learn things on the way, or were you told of mission from day to day?
Well, I came in super gifted, and it was kind of traumatizing as a child because nobody else was experiencing what I was experiencing. My mom has these gifts, and so did my grandmother. But my grandmother was kind of like freaked out by it. My mom, she was more open to it, and she kind of helped me get to people to kind of get my skill sets kind of refined, I guess, and really like learn not to be afraid of it. Like, this is actually a gift. It's nothing to be fearful of, and how to protect myself, especially going into middle school and stuff like that. And the hormone changes and just, yeah, got really, really intense there as a girl. Feeling and sensing like I'm like a super duper empath. Like I can feel the whole universe inside my body. So it can be really intense. Like if you're around the wrong person, you can feel everything they're feeling, and just learning, okay, this isn't me, that's them, and navigating that. But so I tell people I've always been awake, but there's been layers of my awakeness where I awaken more and more and more to God, source, creator. I put myself to sleep twice. I tell people this, and it was mostly for self-preservation purposes because, you know, people like us were kind of hunted and sought out and targeted. So during certain periods of time, I put myself to sleep. So the last time I put myself to sleep, I got really, really sick. I was in ICU for a week with kidney failure. I was going to die. They tried one last ditch effort to get me healed, which worked. But it was very hard on my body. Like literally, I was feeling my body shut down. And that's when these beings approached me, which I could always see through the veil, but these beings approached me and they basically told me, like, hey, you can either stay here, finish your mission, or you can come with us and we're just going to send you right back. And it's like, oh, well, shit, I guess so. Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
I guess I'm staying, like, I guess I'm going to be staying here and finishing the mission. And so that was my last like near death experience, although I've died several times since then, like in a shamanistic like understanding. But I've always like seen things through the veils. Like I have encounters with orbs and angels, what I call galactic glitter, like shadows, cryptics, you name it. Even some stuff I don't even know. I'm like, what in the world is that? And I have to like research it, and it's like I'll either find it, and it's like, oh, that's what that was. Okay. Or I just never figure it out, and it's just like it's still today a mystery, because when you see things, you just kind of keep it to yourself.
And it's funny how, like, talking with people, awarenesses can change, because I have talked to a lot of, like, for example, mediums, and they're like, yeah, it's in the family lineage. Someone in the family did it, and then somebody in their family did it. So everybody thinks it's past genetic. And in what you were talking about with your situation, it made me realize I don't necessarily actually think it's genetic. I think it's the parent who had the gift nurtured it in you, so it kept it alive and going. Whereas the kids who show mediumship, for example, to parents that are not in that world, will shut it down. And I think
Exactly.
that's what's the real difference is of why we have, some mediums and some aren't, is it's was nurtured versus not nurtured. And so that's the reality. Everybody can do it truly if it's nurtured.
Yes, it's so true. It's so, so true. You brought up such a great point about that. And because we're all born like this, like kids come in, especially kids now, they're coming in like fully online, fully empathetic, fully like just still with the veil. And initially around what is it, 9 to 13, that's when things can get shut down. But like you said, if it's nurtured in the right way, and we actually help these kids and make them feel okay, and like it is okay to be like this, because again, here we're talking about these taboos again. Like some people would consider this a taboo, and it's
Right.
not. These are innate abilities that they've strategically forced on the populace, that this isn't how you're supposed to be, because they want it for themselves. Like higher ups, they want it for themselves. They don't want everybody to have this ability. If everybody was online, in tune, could time bend and do all these things, we wouldn't be in the positions in this whatever you want to matrix.
Realm, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And and the beauty of it too is, as we're saying, if not nurtured goes away. but it doesn't die. That's the important thing, because let's say, as a kid, I never did mediumship, but when in my 20s, all of a sudden I could channel.
Wow.
It's not that it wasn't nurtured, or not nurtured growing up. It can always be turned on, so to speak. That our gifts and our abilities are never gone. They
Mhm.
just are quiet until we put energy and power behind it. And then they come online, and it's like, hey, you had this great reveal. And that's where, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, because I didn't do this, as a kid, and my parents told me it was wrong, I can't do it now. And they follow that script, where if they let go of the script of I can't do it anymore, to, well, now that I'm free, and I'm not under my parents' thumb because I'm living my own life, let me see if I can do it. Let me, find someone to help, that can help me nurture and bring energy to this, and see, what it was, if it is something I really want to do. And that's an important fact that I think a lot of people in this world don't realize, is they think once I turn my back on it, it's gone. No, it's
Mhm.
not gone. It's just waiting.
Exactly. And some people, it takes that near death experience to turn it on, or it takes an event or some kind of trauma and they remember. I can't even tell you how many people I've met where they suffer from anxiety, but they're like super empaths and they're picking up on people around them. It's not even them. And they start taking medicines and stuff. And it's like,
Right.
actually,
They
you're
they haven't
empathic, you
yeah,
know?
they haven't learned the discernment yet of the and when I say discernment is, I learned there's one sentence you can say that, like, can clear your energy in a heartbeat, and that is to say, if this is mine, I accept it. If it's not mine, I don't. In which case,
Powerful.
what you're feeling, if it's not yours, it dissipates off and disappears. And so it's like you're not taking on other people's stuff, in other words.
Right. That's a great tip.
And so, with that being said, I don't know how much time you have, but should we get to the presentation?
Yeah, we can do it if you're up to it. I'm up to it.
Oh,
I don't
I
know how much time you have.
I have unlimited time. Well, I say that I have an appointment at 3 o'clock, but it's only 11 here. So, in other words, that's why I say unlimited. Is you don't have to worry about, oh,
Okay.
he's got 10 minutes. It's like, yeah, no, I got an hour, but I'm sure you have commitments too, and so that's why I say, yeah.
Well, I'm actually free today. I made sure that today was free so we could do this. So, um,
All right, well then I will pull it up, and let's illuminating pathways. That's what it says.
yeah. Let me get back out here. Okay, so this is um kind of what we spoke on earlier, nesting patterns from the micro to the macro, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. So I just want to remind everybody that like things operate in this manner. It's all nesting patterns. So if you're trying to heal something, you might need to take it down to the macro, or you might need to take it up to the down to the micro, and then back up to the macro. So I'm just here to illuminate some pathways and also use comparative mythology to kind of unlock some ancient remembrances, at least from my perspective. And you don't have to agree with me. Obviously, use your discernment. I'm just here to kind of help maybe activate something within you that maybe you could utilize, or maybe it will send you down another luminous pathway of your own. So again, you don't have to take what I say as the way it is. Just just give me the just let me show you.
Right.
Essentially.
Well, and I like how you're saying, micro to macro, because I think that's, you're looking at it in the world in a way that most people don't. Like, most people don't sit there and go, we'll use terms like, oh, you're micromanaging, or, oh my gosh, you're looking, this thing in the macro. And it's like, we sit there and we're like, we don't even know what we're saying, because we're just so used to the language that we don't think about what we're saying.
Exactly. A lot, we lose the smaller things, and sometimes we lose the bigger things too. Like, I'm talking like on a subatomic and nanoatomic level, and it's not big enough for us to really have it in our visual, or even like on a bigger level, like a super massive black hole out in the middle of the galaxy. Like, it's all about bringing the big and small into the awareness.
Right.
So,
And another way to look at it is, like we were saying earlier, with how men and women see, situations, is men are more of the macro. We look at the big picture. Women are more of the micro. They look at every minute detail.
That is so true. That is that is great. I like that. So this is kind of what led me down this certain pathway. Basically working on the Tiamat consciousness through the healing. So I often like go into shadow realms, and I reverse engineer, or I try to find pieces of light and bring it back to the surface and kind of weave these luminous pathways for people. So this is where we're going to start our luminous pathways. If you're familiar with the Oceana Dean Guardian material, this is kind of going to play into that a bit, as well as comparative mythology. And so we're starting out with Our Lady of Sorrows and Jesus. Okay, and Our Lady of Sorrows is Mary, who basically carries the seven swords of what happened to Christ. And the way I look at her, and some others look at her, is as a Black Madonna, where she holds the Christ light. So from my perspective and my interpretation on a universal level, she is actually the Manu field holding the Krystic light, or the divine blueprint here. So let me see if I can open this up. So if this template, the 12 tree, 15 tree template, is the divine Christ light, she is that Manu void field that is holding the Christ light. And this will play into some comparative mythos, because essentially you'll see the same story told over and over again, but in different ways based on which region and era it was in. But here you have the 12 tree tree of life here as an example, and this kind of shows you the light right here. As you can see, this kind of looks like the Templar cross, right? Well,
Right.
the Templar cross is actually the smallest unit of light. It's a photon. Hold on, let me see if I can get this out. So this here is a photon, and you can see it literally forms into the Templar cross. So this is the Chris light. We all have this on a cellular level in our heart. This is the spark that happens during consummation. It is the source. It is God's creation in this material plane. So here we're getting into more of the comparative mythos of this, where we were talking before about the masculine and feminine, right, Michael?
Right.
So we have the mother, which could be Mother Mary, Father God, but the Christ, Holy Spirit, which is all of us. Like, we are the child of God, right? And this can play into the smallest fields all the way up to the biggest. And here again, we have the female, the male, the androgynous, the matter, the antimatter, the void, mother, father, child, magnet, electric, electromagnetic, manu, mane, ere, manu, positive, neutral, negative. So this again, there's like this structure, and this goes over to the Hindu understandings of the guna avatars, which usually are three qualities, where one's the birther, one's the sustainer, one's the destroyer. And there's also a feminine one too. So there's many of these, but this is all going back to this divine trinity, right? You need all three, but you want to try to stay in the sustainer field. Now, they all play a role in this creation that we're in. It's just knowing when to apply that masculine, when to apply that feminine, and along this nature.
And what's interesting is what a visual that just popped in my head, and I feel like came from above, so to speak, is, we're talking about the three, the power of the three. And another example of that is we have light, dark, and in the middle would be shadow.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And they all have their role and their place. What I've learned just from my own alchemical process, because I married my shadow like a long time ago. And basically I learned my shadow to a T, and it is my ultimate protector, but I had to sit it down and be like, look, I wear the pants in this relationship. You are my protector. I see you and thank you, but I wear the pants in this relationship. And what I say goes. All right. I see you protecting me and I thank you, but we're going to handle this my way. Okay. And that's basically how I have handled my shadow. Although, like, I do have to have those come to Jesus meetings, but I see inevitably like our shadow is our protectors. And this is going to play into this the Lady of Sorrows kind of theme, where it's more a primordial void, where she is trying to protect the Christ light, so she sends out these kind of hybridized creatures to protect that Christ light, which is, it could be looked at as shadow, but really I think it's just trying to protect Christ within people.
So you view ego as shadow.
I do.
Okay.
because of identity, and the ultimate identity is the Godhead, but we get caught up with like, oh, I'm Kali, I'm this, I'm that. Well, you lose sight of the I am that I am. And that's the ultimate, right? It's the ultimate to be the Godhead and to move away from identity altogether, which is a shadow aspect, because when you claim a certain identity or a certain role, again, you're claiming something that's concrete, that's not in a fluidity kind of state of being, when we're constantly evolving and transforming as energy beings. So it's just something to think about. That's just my viewpoints, like that's my philosophy on it. You don't have to take it, but that's
Oh
how.
no, I find it interesting, and I love the different perspectives, and that's the beauty of being on the Earth realm. Is to me, shadow is the balance of the light and the dark within you, and it's
Mhm.
showing you which aspect you're in. So, if, for example, you're wanting to be of light, and you're being shown, hey, you're kind of acting like what people would describe as dark, you may want
Mhm.
to change this pattern and change this, aspect and reword what you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, thank you for that gift. And in a way, that's what you're saying is, it's showing you who you are and what you're portraying yourself as in the moment.
Exactly. That's so true. That's so true. And yeah, the balance is really what's needed. I mean, we both need the good and the bad. Like, we see, the thing is, like, a long, long time ago, when we were in like the higher fields of awareness and understanding, like, we were too much of light, being that we let in certain beings and entities that kind of overran us, and we didn't defend ourselves because we were like, oh, if we show them love and kindness, they're going to change. But it's not necessarily the case. We have to have that masculine side or that shadow side, or whatever you wish to apply, the feminine side, to kind of bring the balance to a situation, and not let certain beings kind of um, use us as doormats. Like, we have to have boundaries, we have to have understanding, we have to have respect, we have to have compassion, like, all that's needed. But it's just fine tuning the balance between those aspects of the Trinity. Definitely.
Right. And one way, it's like you were saying, with, the situation of, putting light into a place of, where you feel like it's missing, you have to be cautious because if you're doing it out of your authenticity, it'll be received well. But if you're doing it because you feel it's obligation and duty,
Mm,
then it may not be received as well because your intention is not matching the situation.
that is true too. And that, I think that would play into kind of the ego a little bit, right? And those
Right.
identities and the roles, um, that we feel we have to be, portray, or whatever.
Like an
Um,
example is, I walk up and I see a homeless person on the street and I go, hey, here's $3. And I
mhm.
walk on. That is me authentically saying, hey, I just want to help you. And I hope this helps you. But if I go up and I'm walking, along and in the same scenario go, oh, there's a homeless guy. I really need to give, him something to help him because, that's the right thing to do. You have altered your authentic self because now you're doing it because and not doing it out of.
Right. That's so true, Michael. That's a good point. That it really is. It's all about intention at the end of the day.
Right. And they both seem like they're the right thing. It's just one is, I guess, in reality, one is coming from the heart and soul, and one is coming from the mind. And
Yeah,
so that's where the difference in why one is more authentic than the other is your heart and soul is your true authenticness because it encompasses the mind. It doesn't separate it out.
so true. I love that. That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so we're going to go into the body and how this all connects to the body and what I've been working on through the 10th DNA strand, which is connected to the soul star chakra above the head and the left side, the ear. So this all plays into the micro to macro. So basically, I wanted to draw the attention to the body and the certain energetic systems through the nadis, meridians, cheese. Like there's so many different names throughout different traditional practices. You know, some call it axonal lines, but this connects on a grander scale to the things because it's all a nesting pattern. So if it's out there in the sky on a celestial level, it's within our body. So I'm just trying to bring awareness back to that nesting pattern that we were discussing earlier from micro to the macro.
Right.
And so this is the Isis Egyptian scorpion myth. And this essentially can be looked at as well as Mother Mary, the Our Lady of Sorrows, okay? And in this comparative mythos, there's 7 scorpions. So a woman in rags came out of the swamp flaked with 7 giant scorpions and approached a magnificent mansion, begged for food, but the mistress of the house took one look at her dirty clothes and unusual companions and shut the door in her face. Little did the mistress know that the woman was no ordinary beggar, but most powerful goddess in Egypt. A woman in rags emerged from the swamp, flanked by 7 giant scorpions carrying a baby. She headed to the nearest village to beg for food. She approached the magnificent mansion, but the mistress of the house took. Oh, I may have repeated that. Sorry. Let's see.
No, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay. The mistress of the house took one look at the dirty clothes and unusual companions and shut the door in her face. So he continued down the road until he came to the cottage. The woman there took pity on the stranger and offered her all she could, a simple meal and a straw bed. Her guest was no ordinary beggar. She was Isis, the most powerful goddess in Egypt. Isis was hiding from her brother Set, who murdered her husband and wanted to murder her son, Horus. Set was also a powerful god, and he was looking to help them. So, to keep her covered, Isis had to be very discreet. She couldn't risk using her powers, but it wasn't without help. Serket, the goddess of poisonous creatures, had sent 7 of her fiercest servants to guard Isis and her son. As Isis and Horus settled into their humble abode, the scorpions were enraged at how the rich woman had insulted their divine beloved. They all combined their poison and gave it to one of the 7, Tefin, or Tifin. In the middle of the night, he crawled into the mansion and he crawled under the door. He saw the owner's young son sleeping soundly and gave him a strong sting. Isis and her hostess were soon awakened by a loud crying, and they looked out of the college door and saw the mother running down the street crying, and she hugged her son. When Isis recognized the woman who had driven her away, she realized that what the scorpions had done. So she invoked like the spell, which basically neutralized the poison, right? And brought the
Right.
kid back to life, is essentially how it goes. But this is basically an interpretation of Mother Mary and her protecting Christ and using venom of these 7 scorpions, which could also be what I feel linked to the 7 swords that pierce the Lady of Sorrow's heart. Okay. In a
Right.
kind of comparison way, kind of off branching of what happened. So this story is told in various ways, but it resonates to me that Mary was trying to protect Christ's light in the Manu fields of void. And the Manu fields are a neutralization. Like void is primordial, like neutral zone. It is outside of time, it is outside of sound and light. So it carries the Christ light, like it's surrounding the Christ light. So this is a field where all the kind of disruptive beings are sent to be neutralized, if that makes sense.
It does. And Rachel has an interesting point, and I think I'm only bringing it up right now because I think it ties into what you're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
she says, if intent is good, the delivery may seem poor. Is it, in parentheses, possible, with a question mark, that the person receiving is receiving in a poor way?
Yeah, and that goes in perspective. Like what we identify as bad and good may be completely different in a different culture or a different time era, you know?
Right.
So, and this goes back to my philosophical background. Like we would discuss like what is good, what is bad, and again, it all is based on perspective, culture, the time era, because there's stuff that we got away with a long time ago that which would happen now we would be completely against. So
Yeah.
bad and
And,
good, it's all God. Like this is all God having a divine play, you
right.
know. uh
And I think a good example of that may help, clarify, how we're interpreting it is, like, let's say at the conference, I walked up to you and said, "Hey, here's $20," and walked away. My intention is, "Hey, I just wanted to do something nice for you." You may in turn around and say, "Why is he giving me $20? I'm not destitute. I'm not, do I look like I need this?"
yeah,
And that wasn't my intent, but you're picking it up and like you're in confusion and going to one aspect or the other. And so it doesn't
misunderstanding
matter to
it.
me,
Yeah.
what you do with it. But so that's where, yeah, it is possible it could be received wrong in their perspective, but not through mine. And so I would say I don't have anything to look at in that scenario. But then again, I could have said, "Hey, I just feel like being kind. Here's $20, and we could have avoided all the confusion in the get-go. And
Exactly.
so there always is something that could be looked at and maybe changed or
Misinterpreted.
right,
And that goes even with these stories with these comparative mythos. Like these stories, think about it, it's probably been told even before we started writing stuff down, right? Like
right,
these, and traveled all over the world, and these stories get told in a different way compared on the region that they're born into, but it's essentially all the same. It's just trying to look at it cohesively in a way where we can remove the distortions and get down to the pure intent of these storylines, right?
right.
So
And
it's the same concept, I feel.
I agree. And one thing, that I do that I'm able to do really quick, and I'm not going to say, it makes me better than anybody else. And that's not why I'm sharing this, but what I'm going to share is when I do an act, like let's say I was going to, look at the scenario of handing you the $20.
Mm-hmm.
I step back, and before I even reach for my wallet, I am looking and going, okay, how can this be perceived? Why am I doing this? Where is this coming from? What,
Mm,
am I going to be, upset if she does this? Am I going to be upset if she does that? Am I attached to the outcome? Am I attached to the scenario? All of
mm,
these, you can look at, and I laughingly will say, I can look at all of that in a nanosecond and make a decision, and it looks like I just willy nilly walked up and gave $20 to Marvel. Well, in reality, I played out in my head all these scenarios and was like, this is for the betterment, so I'm going to do it.
yeah.
And how she receives it, she's going to play in her mind all these different scenarios and decide which one, is she coming from. And, she's a choice to say, oh, I feel like, Michael is, a really good person. He's, of the light. This must be a light gift. I'll accept it. Or, I wonder why he's, doing this. Maybe, later I should ask him. Or, I don't want to insult him, so I won't ask him. And that, is where we get hung up, is we start becoming attached to what is going to happen. And that's what we have to be careful of and look at and go, okay, and that's where I can go, hey, if I do this, these outcomes become nullified. So she'll know it's of the light and it's all right. Versus, oh, if I do nothing, she's going to be questioning again. And so that's where true communication and true listening comes in, because another aspect of that is if I walk up and I'm speaking with my heart and say, my heart to you, here's $20, and her heart is open and she'll hear, hey, your heart is giving me $20. My heart accepts this $20. We don't have to say a word, and we had a great conversation.
Right.
So it's a matter of how you approach and how much are you really thinking and putting into it, and not getting attaching yourself to what is going to be instead of just letting the moment be the moment.
Yeah. Detachment is key. Yes, sir. I completely agree with that one. It's it would be nice if more people were in that awareness in society, you know,
I
and
agree.
actually analyze like that. But that's beautiful that you do that. I appreciate you for being like that. It's very rare to come across on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to move into more of the Mesoamerica understanding of this energy.
I was going to say, that looks Aztec.
Yeah. So this is Chimalma, and she is the mother of Quetzalcoatl, or the rainbow serpent, as well as the god of death. So again, here's like a trinity where she's like birthing. Quetzalcoatl to me is essentially Jesus in the Mesoamerica tradition. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then Axotl is like the death god, or it could be looked at as like the devil, but Satan, but or even like Shiva, because Shiva is considered a destroyer in the Trinity. But so essentially she influenced life cycles, guides souls through birth, life, and death. So here it's more of like the Pluto, like the transformation energies that are held in the 10th gate, or the Mother of Sorrows, Mother Mary, who holds the Christ light, which is this Quetzalcoatl, which is her son. And for those that aren't familiar with Pluto, it is in astrology like it's the Scorpion. It's Scorpio, right? So Scorpio is all about transformations, about the taboos, life, death, sex, But if you look at the tile here, you can see it almost takes on a scorpion type tail. Like, this is just looking at it from my perspective. Like, if you look behind her, this right here, just, it gives me scorpion energy, right? And
I'll be honest, I'm Pisces and I saw a scorpion.
Yeah. So it's and there's like these little creatures. Like, we could really I could probably dissect this more if I had more time, but essentially she is the mother of Jesus. This is Mary, essentially, in my perspective. So what's interesting is that she had a flower, and like I was saying, to heal things on a macro to micro level, we got to sometimes look at things, and that includes the kingdoms. What do I mean by the kingdoms? The elemental kingdoms, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom. It all kind of falls within the same influency. So another aspect of my career is I work with flower essences, and an essence of the flower is basically an energy of a flower that's been captured in water using sunlight. So there's like these sonic geometries of a flower, and every flower on the planet targets a different emotion, a different imbalance. If you're trying to bring about healing to something, there's typically a flower for it. So what was interesting is she was actually connected to the hibiscus. And it's like, okay, well, let's work with the flower kingdom, and we're going to take the flower essence of the hibiscus, and we're going to run it through the entire planet, to bring healing to the 10th gate. And what was fascinating is, like, after doing that, several weeks later, I got this confirmation, which says a rare blue hibiscus has appeared in Hawaii for the first time in 10 years. And those who don't know, the Hawaiian gate is a very, very powerful gate. And it just basically confirmed all the work that we had been doing to kind of re-anchor and move through the 10th gate and get everybody back connected to the full source spectrum, and the Godhead was working on a planetary level, and even in the kingdom level there was that sign that was given. So I took that as a divine sign from source creator that like we were on the right pathway. And then moving on, so there's this Scorpio king in Hindu mythos, and this goes back, can you see this? You probably can't see it.
I see a hyperlink.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to open it. I'm wondering, can you hear this if I play it?
We'll find out.
Can you hear that?
I don't hear anything right now.
Okay, so essentially, there was a man who was stung by a scorpion, and Brahma was impressed by this, and there was like this devil-like energy that came in and basically was challenging Vishnu and was saying that he was the ultimate ruler when he was not. And Vishnu, to me, can be looked at as Jesus in this story. And then his mom was there, which was Mary, but you had this bad guy, I forget his name now, but I think it's Yama. I can't remember. He's the one that Narasima ends up destroying, right?
Right.
Which is a lion-headed kind of hybrid being that destroys this god, because he was basically made invincible. He was granted the wish of like nobody could come up against him. Nothing could destroy him. He like named off all these things where he pretty much was invincible. So there was a god created just to destroy this guy because he had become like the undestroyable one. So this is another kind of comparative mythos that kind of plays into what I'm talking on here,
Right.
and the different timelines and eons. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to share, if people are familiar with Hollywood, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, does have a movie where he's the Scorpion King, and the first part of the story is, he is stung by the scorpion and becomes the king of the scorpions. He survives, but they kind of did away with the other half of the story, I think, and dragged it out to, I don't know if they're ever going to get to it or what, but so if you were wanting to know, if that helps you reference what we're talking about, I was just going to throw that out there because some people may have seen that.
And you can easily look up, just look up the god who was stung by scorpion and Hindu mythology, and it should bring it up, the storyline in full, if you want to research it for yourself. I had a video, but it's not going to play on here. I do apologize about that. I'll be better prepared next time with it.
You're totally fine.
But yeah, so this was just another play into these plutonic energies and the story of Mary protecting Christ, but in a different version based on the culture. This is what I mean by I'm trying to create these luminous pathways on a universal level throughout different cultures for people using these comparative things. Now, this one right here is based on like the Sumerian concept of it. So here we're tapping into more of the
ancients,
the I'm sorry,
Anunnakis.
Ganesh, or not Ganesh. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the sacred canon, the texts, the flood of
Gilgamesh, the Epic of
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't get that out for some reason. I was having a brain fart. but
That's all right.
But yeah, so this is coming out from this interpretation, and this is where Tiamat kind of comes in here. So Tiamat, which is, I feel, the Mary, Mary, Mother of Sorrows, the protector of Christ's light. She creates these scorpionic men to kind of fight and defend the Christ light. But this, again, there's some distortions here in the interpretation because, yeah, they do. Yeah, scorpionic energy can be seen as chaos, but most importantly, some people's chaos is actually transformation, like Mother Nature. Like, people would label Mother Nature as chaos, like if she had a storm or whatever come through, but sometimes that energy is needed to kind of clear out and cleanse a place and actually birth anew. So again, it goes back to what you were saying, Michael, about good and bad, and how things can be kind of misinterpreted and misunderstood,
right?
Based on that person's perspective that's perceiving it. Again, this character, they call it the scorpions are basically chaos, right? But it's actually transformation, I think, is a better word for it, because that's what these kind of the plutonic the Pluto energies are all about. Like, if you are into astrology, and it's about the taboos too, which is transformational energy. It's about birth, it's about sex, and it's about death. And that all three of those are considered taboo too. So this kind of like plays into that energy, right? And just basically reclaiming Tiamat on the guardian level, and kind of helping people understand her throughout different interpretations as she is trying to protect the Christ light. She's not trying to harm it. She's actually trying to like cause scenarios to get it reinstated or resurrected, would probably be the better word here when we're talking about the Mary, Our Lady of Sorrows, because she was there holding Jesus as he was dying, and in preparation for his resurrection of the Christ light within. And this goes back to like what even may happen inside individuals. Like, what if they do lose their light? Well, there's going to be scenarios put in place, or this chaos, or this transformational energy that's going to come in to actually reinstate that and resurrect that Christ light within them, right? That transformation within them to get back to source creator God.
And something interesting too is when you look at all the graph around the scorpions in all the stories, they're always giant scorpions or the adult scorpions. And I wonder if part of that is because a baby scorpion, if it stings you, that's the one that'll kill you because it doesn't know when to stop. So it just unloads all of its venom into its target, where the adult only unloads a small amount of the venom. And so you have a chance of survival, but they have that wisdom. And so I wonder if in the the icons that they use of them, if that's why they're always big scorpions, because they have wisdom that the little scorpion doesn't.
Yeah, and what's interesting that you bring that up is when I was reading this, it was like the scorpions were actually the gatekeepers, right? They were actually protecting something. And I almost feel like there's the seven that keeps playing a role, like the seven swords, the seven scorpions, and then I could take it over into the Gnosticism understanding of the seven spheres. So the seven spheres are basically these archonic gatekeepers, right? And they're
Right.
the ones that keep us trapped here. And you have to have a password for each sphere to follow through. Well, my understanding is it's the seven planets, the innermost planets, which actually control the material realm here, whereas the outer planets past that, including Pluto, are more about a subconscious level. So subconsciously, these beings are gatekeeping the 365 of them actually correspond to the days. The seven can actually correspond to not only the planets, but the color system and the seven realms of the tree of life. So it kind of all like, it's kind of hard for me to put it in words because it's kind of complex, but there is a stream of unification within all of these different scenarios. And
And here's something for you too, along those lines is we, seen Sumer, seen, the Egyptians, seen everybody has similar stories. We think they borrowed from each other. What if it wasn't borrowed? What if there was a race, like, a group, we'll say the Anunnaki for sake of the conversation, and they're sharing this, and they are individual stories, but they're aligned because that's the culture is global, not specific. And one of the groups of the Anunnaki is Palladians. And the reason I'm getting there is the Pleiades, I don't know if you're familiar, they're known as the Seven Sisters, the Seven Stars. And so
yes,
there's your seven again.
yeah, and I think that can also play into the river, the Absul too, or Absu, which
Yeah,
actually is Eridanus, but it's like off. Anyway, it gets in a celestial area too with these stories. Like these
right.
stories actually connect with the
It would be,
stars, but
yeah, it'd be
also
like
our
the
mind.
Egyptian duat.
Yes, yes, with the 12 gates. Yes, exactly. It's the same thing with that even. And this goes back to that micro to macro, like it's just I'm trying to create a luminous pathway where like people can like see all this and see all the distortions and see how it's maybe being used and weaponized into dogmas to kind of put control and constraint on us, and maybe we can navigate out of it now and see the more powerful message behind the Christ light, and the mother void Manu fields that hold that Christ light, and what its true purpose is to neutralize these subconscious poisons and these kind of creatures, the hybridized creatures that are causing the chaos, but really it's transformation energies regardless. It's all serving a purpose down here in this kind of divine play that we have here, and this experience that we're so blessed to be experiencing, the good and the bad, because it's all helping us evolve at the end of the day, right? Like
Right.
we're all kind of learning what we came here to learn, and getting the lessons, and we're also teaching the lessons, and yeah, it's kind of like this beautiful journey, that we're lucky God let us be able to have here. Um,
And I find it a blessing that, there are individuals who, you know, they may not consider themselves gifted, like they're not mediums, they're not contactees, they're not experiencers. They're researchers, but researchers have a gift of putting information together and seeing information in a way others don't. And that is a gift in itself. And so I don't view them as not gifted, I view them as equally gifted.
yes, yeah. If somebody's devout in their studies enough and they're able to bring forward something that actually, just think about all the pivotal people who have brought information forward that completely changed the planet and changed the way we look at things and do things. Like, if it wasn't for those researchers that were able to like put it in a conceptual and context in a way where everybody could understand, then like eh, we would still probably be in the Stone Age.
Right.
It's just really beautiful to see um, different people able to bring information forward, and the people that actually can gather that information see the bigger tapestry and put it in a way where everyone can understand it. I really appreciate anybody that can do that, like in so many fields, like we need more researchers like that um, in the
Right.
world, you know?
I view you as one of those. I appreciate you putting all this information together because you're connecting dots I had never thought to connect, and changing my awareness of some things just by doing this.
Oh, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. And yeah, just this is like one of my passions. I'm always kind of trying to help the planet and people anyway and anyway anyhow I can. I've always been this way, and these kind of Pluto energies are kind of like my specialty with my death doula and birth doula and sex alchemy. It kind of all plays its part, and it's helped me on my journey too, of evolution. Just doing all this and seeing it for what it is very profound, and it's like, oh wow, it just puts me that much closer to God, and just how beautiful like all this has been like over eons. Even though yeah, there might be some dark wrapped into it, it's just beautiful unfolding and flowering of consciousness, that I get to experience, but also get to help other people experience, illuminating these pathways, you know?
I
And
agree.
maybe and maybe they have more to add to the pathway, you know? That's
right.
the beautiful part, is like once this gets out there, maybe they can add more to it or take away from it, and vice versa, and just help others and utilize it, um,
And
in a
it makes
beautiful
sense to
way.
me now why NASA and the scientists kind of took Pluto out of the equation and were like, yeah, this isn't a planet anymore. And I'm like, what do you care? Pluto is on the outs, is like the last planet in the system. Like what do you care? It doesn't have anything really to do with us. And now it's like when I'm looking at it in the form of like Scorpio and, all that it's attached to, I can see, oh, wait a minute. There is, a reason now why this is going away, because the narrative can't allow this to be. And so,
No, yeah, exactly. And not only that, but there's a there's a nerve in the brain that actually connects to this too, right? And it connects all the way up to the Plutonian energies, and guess what that nerve um conducts or helps?
I would
Smell
say,
and taste. So think
oh,
about a certain something. They were targeting that too, but it has more than just that it does. Okay, so they were trying to cut us off like that too. So it gets way more in depth than people realize this. And I've spoken about this on another podcast. I won't bring it up, but I went into the depth of the 10th gate and the targeting of certain um, nerves in our cranial that are connected to smell and taste and what they do, and the agenda why they want to leave Pluto out. You know, it's a lot bigger than people realize.
oh yeah.
So, um,
I just made a connection too, and for the sake of the show, yeah, I'm gonna hold it back, and I can tell people offline what it is. But yeah, I kind of worked hard to have this channel, and I don't want it
yeah,
shut
yeah,
down.
yeah. That's why I was like, we're gonna just skate around it a little bit, but if
Yeah,
picking up what I'm putting down, that's good. That's
I
good.
am.
Okay. So back to this presentation. So we go into so we just got through with the body as well as the kind of uh, mythos, the comparative mythos of it, right? Well, now we're getting more into like the planetary and the celestial understanding. So what connects to this 10th gate, which we were just also discussing with the nerves and the cranial nerve in the head here, you got Iraq, um, Iran, Kashmir, and Hatshepsut's temple. And we all know that there's a big, I don't know what to talk about, if we're allowed to talk about this, Michael, the war that's going on. Are we allowed to talk about that?
I tend to.
Kind of, okay.
I'll
Well,
look at it in the esoteric, like hidden
okay.
way of it, but I don't do the political or
Oh, okay. I
that
see.
kind of.
Well, esoterically, um, this would be kind of the positions that kind of help those axonal, meridian, naughty chi lines that I was talking about earlier in the 10th DNA strand. and essentially also the 10th cranial nerve, which controls smell and taste. So we know that there's conflict happening right now over there, and there's been massive undertaking of fighting for Stargate reinstatement and getting it in the correct hands and getting it cleared from nefarious people who don't want us to surpass the soul star chakra level within our divine blueprint of the 10th strand of DNA. And this goes all the way up to that Plutonian scenario that you had brought up with NASA. So it goes that deep, you know? And go ahead.
You know, and I was going to say, as deep as we're going, I feel like, and this is my opinion, but to me, it feels like we're still on the tip.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten off the tip yet, and we are so deep. It's like, this is how huge of a scale of what we've been denied is.
Exactly. It's so true. And then so when I start working on a planetary scale, like I said prior, if any like flowers, minerals, or animals come in that I'm guided to work with, I will start working with it. So these are actually mostly connected to sapphire crystals, which was pretty blue color crystal. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's also variations. There's also pink and other colors too. But I brought in the sapphire crystals, and I started working those on a planetary scale that work along with these planetary points here. And not only that, but I was also directed to bring in azurite and lapis lazuli, which is actually in the Bible, and it's called the throne of heaven, God's throne stone, and it's actually used in the breastplate of the Magi's. Remember, they had like a breastplate and it had all the stones on it. So that was one of the stones, but there's there's biblical texts that actually connect to lapis lazuli, and please feel free to research that yourself because it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I actually have an interesting question for you around the sapphire, like the sapphire, emeralds, crystal, actual crystals and everything. Scientists are now growing them in labs and making them look just like the real thing. And my question to you is, if you go to a store, like a crystal store, because I'm sure they know they're buying lab versus real, but they don't disclose it. Does it carry the same energy and the same purpose, or because it's created artificially, you're not getting any benefit actually from it because it's not the natural?
Well, it's all in perspective. So the emerald, the sapphire, and the ruby have the same like if you look at the structure of the molecules, it grows in the same kind of shape. I can't remember if it's 3 or 6. I should know this. Sorry, but
No, you're fine. It was a question nobody probably thought would ever come up.
I would always prefer the organic versus a lab grown, but honestly, sometimes it is extremely difficult. Like I know of a gentleman, he's a dealer, and sometimes he even gets caught up on like, is this real? Is this fake? You know, it's getting harder and harder to tell. And honestly, we can talk about in vitro, and we could talk about babies and stuff like that. Like, does that make them any less, like if they're created in a lab and then inserted in a mother, or just if they're not even inserted in a mother, does that, you know, there's all these like little nuances that we could really like go down, not only with stones, but just like comparatively, like, I don't know, we could get really philosophical here, but I would always want organic, you know, versus lab grown.
Yeah, it's like I say, we're going down the rabbit hole, and every time you think you hit the bottom, it opens up again and becomes deeper and deeper. So in reality, it's, you know, you decide how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, because I don't think we'll ever, in my experience, ever have anyone that sits there and goes, hey, this is the rock bottom of the rabbit hole. Here's
Right.
everything you need to know. And we're like, hey, we finally got all the answers. It's like, no, because I
No.
inevitably feel like somebody is going to come up with a question and rip that hole
Right.
open. And it's like, oh, we thought we were done.
And then, not to like get super off topic, but have you seen the diamonds that are made, like you take the person's ashes,
Oh, yeah.
right? And they turn them into a diamond. So there's like that scenario. And it's like, well, if they're just now telling us about this and doing this means they've probably been doing this way longer. So how many of these diamonds and rubies and emeralds and whatever are actually people? Like that kind of like blew my mind when I was kind of going down that rabbit hole, you know, just
You know,
something y'all could
well,
kind of branch off of this conversation, but it's something to think about, you know?
well, and I'll just segment for a second and say, you know, being a paranormal investigator, there are objects that are known as trigger objects, and a lot of them are jewelry, can be a trigger object.
Mm,
And you're right, it could be because we think they imprinted on the stone or on the ring or necklace, but it could be their ash is in the ring or necklace. We never think about that because we feel it's so new. But you're right, that probably has been done for centuries, and we just are now, quote unquote, disclosing that this is an option.
yeah, yeah. So it's all, there's nothing new under the sun, you know? We think it's all new, but a lot of this is just, it's coming to the surface, but it's been going on. I mean, we could go down, we could say that about so many conspiracies, right? Like,
Right.
it's all been done before. It's just now it's coming out of the dark into the light, and people are getting awareness of it.
Yeah, and
So,
it's almost like I want to say, for all you people out there that think disclosure isn't happening, hey, we just disclosed something for you. So disclosure is happening.
it's happening right here. You got a first row seat. Okay, so this is going to get into more of the celestial aspects of it. So not only is Pluto connected to it, but also the Scorpius constellation, which, hello, Scorpions, that's you guys. You're this dwarf planet, that's you. Um, so again, the Scorpion comes into play here. Also, Vega, which is in one of the Byron contexts. So Vega is even higher than Pluto. So on the smallest planetary scale, it's this, and then it moves up to the constellation, then the planet, and then to the celestial planet Vega. So again, I'm reiterating the nesting patterns, right? And this right here is essentially, remember how we were talking about that Hindu god that was created to kill the demon that nobody else could kill? Well, this is basically the same thing in Greek mythology. And you see here, it's got the lion body with the ram's head and then like the snake's tail, but it's this hybridized being that was created in order to kill these demons that nobody else could kill, that was kind of like running the planet. So again, this is more comparative connections that I made when I was kind of unlocking a lot of this stuff. And this goes back into Tiamat too, because Tiamat consciousness is held within this Kepler belt. So Tiamat was a planet that was exploded. And it goes even more in depth, Michael. I'm just kind of keeping it elementary for right now. That way people can follow along. But
yeah, you're fine doing that. And I was going to say on the prior slide, when you were saying Vega is the top, like echelon, so to speak.
Yes.
What came to mind when you said that in my mind was the movie Contact, aptly named. They made contact with Vega. And they're the ones that sent that sphere. And she went and had this huge experience with her dad.
Yeah.
And they on the Earth were like, you never left. You were gone for 12 seconds. But yeah, and so it's interesting, how they would correlate, contact Vega.
Yeah, that's so cool. I forgot that little detail. I'm glad you pointed that out to me. I'm gonna have to rewatch that now. But yeah, that's a cool cool thought there. Vega, yeah. So the Lyra system, there were 3 stars, but Vega is the main gate. Well, it's not the main, it was actually 11 and a half, but there was wars on Vega, and I have memories of Vega and there being a war, and I basically held the door open at certain densities for divine family to escape, and I kind of stayed with the ship more or less, and now I'm holding the door open again, but it's like for people to like actually get back up and out.
Right.
So
the Lyran Wars did a lot of quote unquote damage, but not really, because we've learned, what we're conceiving or perceiving as damage, not really how they're perceiving it. And so yeah, it's a tricky thing, is because we're still looking at it through Earth filters, not galactic filters. And we could go on a tangent on that alone for a few hours, but yeah, we'll stick to this. And like you're saying, the brief is great, because that's what I love to do. Is I love to give people ideas and let them derive their own conclusion.
Exactly. And that's what I'm kind of like keeping it at. Like, this is, like I said, you don't have to follow or listen to anything. I actually ask you to do the research for yourself and tie all this stuff together, and just like I did, like follow the stepping stones that your heart's telling you and guiding you to go down. But again, this all connects to like the Tiamat consciousness, which is a planet that was exploded and is now the part of the Kepler belt. And then you have these dwarf planets that are also out there. And remember, the 7 inner planets run the material, whereas all the other planetary systems on the outside, kind of tie into the more subconscious. This is why it's called Solomon's seal. It's like David's ring. There's a seal and it's got the 7 planets, and supposedly it's the Star of David with 7 planets around it, but he was supposed to be able to control everything with this ring, right? This magical ring. Well, it's actually like the 7 archons or 7 planets on the inside, which they influence the material realm. Like there's spirals inside of spirals here of energy, and we get hit and influenced by these energies as we're also spiraling and spinning through the galaxy. So the astrology aspect is actually playing into our field as we're moving along, and people are just so disconnected from the macro and the micro sometimes because it's out of sight, out of mind. We don't think like this. So this is playing into the nesting things. And we also have the moon. The moon is basically considered part of that consciousness of Tiamat. But I'm just trying to help people understand. So the Kepler belt's out here right next to like the Plutonian energies, like it's in with that. And what's cool about this one right here is it's egg shaped, which I found interesting because I'm sure there's more, but I found it interesting that it was like an oblong versus like a more spherical, like the moon and whatnot, and the planet Earth.
I agree. It is really interesting, because we're always told, oh, planets are spheres, and they are sphere, and there's a reason they're sphere, and because of the music of the spheres, the harmonic frequency and everything. But we define sphere as being round, and we may be wrong about that, and a sphere is round or more oval, in which case everything is still right, but we are basing our perception on something we've been told it is.
And that goes back to the senses and stuff like that. Like we get stuck in like the materialism of things, and our understanding of things, and we need to try to move out of that more into like an esoteric, understanding.
What I find interesting too is like Haumea. To me, when I first looked at it, it looks like an inverted UFO. Like we've been told,
like
it's the disc with the dome in the middle of it kind of image. And I'm like, is that a planet or a ship?
I mean, some people would argue that too, because some of these I call it satellites, but it's more of like a dwarf planet, just like Pluto. But they could very well be. There could be life on it. There could be just consciousness, like highly evolved interdimensionals.
And it could be a craft that ran out of fuel and got stuck in orbit, and now we're like, hey, we got a planet.
Just cruising the outer rim here, it could be like, and that's what I think is so exciting about astrophysics and astrology, and is just there's so much that is still unknown. Even on our planet, there's still so much that's unknown, but it's exciting to think about all that's hidden our way. New discoveries every day. It makes me excited.
Exactly.
So going back to some comparative stuff. So these are kind of some of the guides I work with when I'm unlocking things, and they are actually connected to this consciousness. So you have the blue Tara, both in the Buddhist tradition, and this is more Asian tradition right here, the Blue Tara. And this is the Hindu tradition. This is Nila Saraswati, is a form of Saraswati that I work with. But they're kind of like, just like I was comparing the Lady of Sorrows earlier with all these other mythos, like these are all kind of the same, just in different regions. Comparatively, they're very, very similar. Each one is very powerful in its own right. But if you research it, just look up the Blue Tara. There's the Buddhist one, and then there's this one, and then it's Neela, Neela, for the Hindu tradition. But it's kind of the same energy stream. I guess that's what I could call it. And then also one more archetype would be Saint Christopher. So Saint Christopher is Anubis. He's the dog-headed. He is the dog-headed
god of the underworld.
Yeah.
The guide for the underworld.
So the underworld is actually the overworld in my perspective. Okay, up is down, left is right. Like things are so backwards here. So the underworld is actually overworld. And Anubis to me, who is the guardian of Shulat, that is the 12 tree of life for me. That is the divine blueprint. He is the carrier of the Christ light. He is the void energy. He is the one who either will neutralize you or send you back. And this is why there's, if you actually read St. Christopher's story, he supposedly was with the devil and then he went back to Christ. But, you know, that goes into the neutralization of the Manu fields, because all the naughty ones get sent there, right?
Right.
All the naughty ones get sent into the void field to be neutralized and to be brought back into the Christ light.
And
so,
interesting fact is Saint Christopher is the patron saint of travelers, and you have Anubis who guides you from your point of transition to judgment to where you're going next. So he's not really, like, in essence, Osiris is the god of the underworld. He rules the underworld, but Anubis is the travel guide. Kind of like St. Christopher is the patron saint of travelers, so he's your travel guide.
And the same with Tara, too. She's the same. She's the travel guide. And that's one reason why I work with them so closely, is because after realizing this, it's kind of influencing along the same energy streams, as well as we come over here to this one. Like it's all kind of together. Like she's holding Christ's light. She's the Lady of Sorrows. She's the one that's sending out the beings to protect the Christ light and resurrect it, or help it resurrect. So it's just a beautiful. I hope y'all are following me the way I'm.
Well, and what's interesting is here they're showing Mary with a black cloak. Normally she's with purple or pink, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's interesting that they changed the color of her cloak, but still give her the disc. And so it's like, it's a little interesting to see
Exactly, Michael. And
the color offset.
And people would probably know this as the Black Madonna, which that's another thing we could like go down a rabbit hole, is how there are certain cultures that have taken the Black Madonna and turned it into something evil and used it for dark purposes where it's not supposed to be used like that. You understand where I'm going with it? With like,
oh yeah,
the Santa, I think it's called Santa Maria, and things like that. Like, there's forms of like witchcraft that go with the Black Madonna. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Right.
But the true divine purpose of her is she's the carrier of the Christ light. She's the protector of it. In my heart of hearts, she is that Manu void field that's carrying us. It's carrying everything. And she's the one that helps it resurrect. And she cries for it and she neutralizes its poisons. So it can be resurrected. That in my heart of hearts is like what I feel. And it's been so distorted and regurgitated. And we've kind of lost sight of like the original purpose of it. So yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up, I was going down this path, is I kind of unlocked something on a celestial level, and I just wanted to put it out there for my other celestial grid workers, just in case. So this is the Hindu god of Aquarius. And the reason why this came up is because, you know, the Lady of Sorrows, she had the 7 swords that pierced her heart. So for whatever reason, I got an inkling to look up, you know, the 7 of Swords and the tarot deck, which also ties into the stars. If you, and the 72 different archetypes, you know, if you look into the history of tarot, it all ties in to the macro and the micro. So when I looked into it, there was this rope, right? And I've been working on another incident, but I'm not going to go into it right now. But basically, this rope, this Pasha, was revealed to me. And there are certain star systems that I'm working with. And I discovered that the star systems I was working with, any of the gods that were connected to that star system that was holding this, it's a noose, essentially, it's a rope. It is connected to black holes. So the Aquarian star system has a black hole in it, as well as some other ones that I'm currently working with some guardians on clearing and like kind of helping with some stuff that's going on in Uluru with the silver cord and stuff. So I unlock the symbology of the noose here, and I came about this because there was other enchantments. Like, I don't know if you know this, but in witchcraft they use like a magic circle. Well, the ropes in Catholicism that they tie around their waist is a magic circle. So I was like undoing like the protection of them, basically, and kind of some of the Catholic what should I say here?
Dogma.
Domination. Yeah, dogma. Thank you. I was trying to like reverse all of that, as well as like the mosaics that use the ropes, because it also ties into Capricorn too, the ropes. And then there was stained glass windows that also tied into ropes and some of the enchantments on the cathedral. Because another thing I do is like I can unlock like pictures, and I've done so much Like I could really delve into it, but it's all back to those nesting patterns where the micro can lead out to macro. So you think you're looking at a painting or a statue, and really it's connecting to a whole other field of on a microcosmic level. So again, back to that. But this is pretty much my presentation, Michael. That I
Well, thank you for that.
yeah, thank you for having me. And
Well, I'll drop that out and bring us back. And, I have to say, I find it really fascinating when you can watch like certain people who will say, this is what this means, this is what this means. And people get lost in it because they're like, it's too scientific or it's too much information being thrown at them. Whereas you get other speakers like you, Micah Dank, I feel like is in this category too, where you're presenting a lot of information, but you're presenting it in such a way that you're not overwhelmed. You're like, I can follow, I can see, I get it. Okay, I'm learning. And I think that that's a beautiful aspect of it. And sorry, I just noticed Terry was asking a question, and I'm not sure if he's referring to the picture, but he says, is that a face or mask in the middle of the noose?
no, there's no face or mask in the middle. It's strictly a rope. And there's multiple Hindu gods that carry the rope, but a lot of the ones that are carrying the rope, there is a star system that's associated with it. And that's basically what it all comes down to, is a lot of these stories and these archetypes are actually cosmological understandings that have been told and retold on a minute level and maybe misrepresented, misinterpreted, and used as dogmas to control us. And we've lost the true understanding of it, and just bringing path of illumination to those understandings. And what I'm doing is part of my mission here on the planet.
Oh, our apologies, Terry. We didn't mean to
Oh, sorry.
speak out about that. And one thing I find interesting, as we're talking about the rope, is recently I was on a channeling session where I was talking about how much disclosure was in like cartoons of the 60s and to current, and we just didn't know what we were seeing. And an episode I was watching of Super Friends with I think it's Power Team or something. I forget the full title of it. But Wonder Woman, who carries the lasso of truth,
Yes.
is been mind wiped and programmed to be a certain way. And Batman, says, hey, I have her lasso. If I put this lasso around her, it should break her free. And it ends up restoring her back to her original self. And I thought, how is it interesting that we're looking and we're seeing ropes and everything, and she's carrying a rope that restores you to your original state
And
and that
see,
you cannot lie. And it's like,
you bringing that up, it's also that God, he brings about cosmological order. So he uses the rope, he lassos you with the rope, and it's the same thing like you're saying
yeah,
here right now. And he also rides the Makara, which is chaos, but he brings divine order. It's Aquarius. They have this, the scales and everything like that. So if you think about Aquarian energy, it's the same thing you're talking about with the rope. It's like it's drawing out like the black hole or this this energy is of the constellation itself, or just this cosmological force, is pulling out on a collective level for all of us on the planet anything that's not in order, right? It's like
Right.
Wonder Woman's rope is being wrapped around the collective, and now, boom, disclosure.
And, it's like, and you think about it, when you're looking at all these characters that we're giving in comics, you have one that's the billionaire. You have one that, she flies an invisible jet and has a rope, and that's her really big thing. And you're like, really? But then it's like you realize all the things that can be done with it. It's like, yeah, she mentally can control the rope. So, like, if somebody puts it on the other side of a room, she can connect telepathically to the rope, and the rope will slither its way over to
Mhm.
help her. And it's like, that rope is so much more, I think, than just the rope. It's like, I think it's sentient almost, because it's responding to her. And then it's like, and it gets you to go, well, if a rope can be sentient, what else in our world that we think is just laying around doing nothing is actually sentient life going through its process?
Well, that's why I brought up the monks who wear ropes around their waists. People just think it's part of their outfit. No, there's actually a ritualistic purpose to it. It's supposed to protect them. It's like a protective circle, you
Right.
know? So yeah, you're touching on some good stuff there.
It happens. No, but
The
so thank you for coming on, and I'm so grateful we were able to do this at a time where we had time to fully unfold this and didn't have to rush through it. And also, I'm also grateful that I'm in a place in my life right now to where I can do mornings if necessary, or afternoons, evenings, to share this information out and be more open in the schedule. Because I feel like if I had said to you, oh, I have to do it in the evening, may not have been so, open and free flowing. It would have been more constricted, because we're like, oh, I got other things to do, and I got this and that. Where in the morning, it's like, hey, I got the rest of the day. So it's
yeah,
perfect.
it worked out perfect. Yeah, thanks for being open and having me on here. I really enjoyed talking with you. You brought up so many great tips and things and discussion points. I really appreciate that. You're a very good interviewer.
Well, thank you. And it's funny you say interviewer, because I'll say to people, I just do conversations. I don't do interviews. I
Well,
don't interview
I
people.
enjoyed talking to you, just like at the disclosure conference. I enjoyed talking to you there too. So
Right.
it's
And
nice to have this discussion today.
I was talking yesterday with Brad Olson and Tony Rodriguez and Alex Collier, and one of the things we were saying is, you go to conference and you say, I want to talk to this person, I want to talk to this person, and you're in an informal setting talking to the person, and then you introduce yourself, and they're like, oh my god, I wanted to talk to you, and they're like, see, you did. And it's amazing how connections are made. And I remember meeting you at the conference, and I was like, and I heard your name, but I was like, I couldn't really place it because I wasn't active on social media much. And then I came across Marvel Bliss on TikTok and on Facebook, and I was like, hey, this person looks really cool. This, would be a really cool person to have on. And then I realized, oh my God, I met this person. I know this person.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, it's great connecting with people. I loved the disclosure conferences. Those were so fun. Hopefully they pick up soon again, because I'd love to see everybody again. Are you local there in Florida?
I'm actually in Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Cool.
So I'm like in the middle because a lot of the conferences are Sedona or Colorado to the left, or Shasta, which is to my left, or Florida. And it's like, that's to my right. It's like, nobody really does conferences here. And if they do, it's always like, I find out after the fact. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I
yeah.
totally would have went if I had known that was here.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish there was more all over. We just need them everywhere.
We do, and they're getting there.
Yeah, they are. They're a lot more than there used to be. That's for sure.
Very true. And I do have a message for you, and it's a message I like to give all of my guests. And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's seen,
Oh,
felt, heard, and so appreciative. And in your case, so poignant in today that thank you for putting this together and sharing it and
oh,
being you.
you. Yeah, thank you from my heart to you. I sincerely thank you for having me on today and giving me the space to do this. And I appreciate what you do too, and what you bring to the table during this was just as poignant as mine. So we had a good flow here. So
Yes, and
it's great.
do follow along on, Marvel Bliss on TikTok, and she's on Facebook. You can follow me on my shows on YouTube and Rumble, and you never know, Marvel Bliss may be making another appearance, if I'm going to cross my fingers, if divine timing works, we'll have her back on and we'll continue this, because I feel like there's more to what she has to share with us than what we were able to cover in this almost 3 hours. And it's like amazing when you get situations and guests like that, that it's like, yes, they can be repeat guests, but the information, I try my best to always be different when I have them on and not repeating the same story over and over.
Exactly. That that would be lovely. I'd look forward to that. If we do plan it in divine timing and everything works out, we'll do it.
Yes, and thank you to everyone in the chat room and
Thank
everyone
you
who's
guys.
watching. And with that, I'm going to say, normally I would say good night because most of my shows are at night. I'm going to say instead, have a blessed afternoon and rest of your day. And thank you again, Marvel, for trusting me to come on the show and sharing what you had to share.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be here. Appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great day.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.